The 1986 New York Mets are one of the most legendary teams in Major League Baseball history. Books have been written, documentaries made, stories told and argued over, all about this wild, talented, hard-partying, airplane-destroying, fun-loving, envelope-pushing, ragtag bunch of amateur rappers who also happen to be pretty good at baseball, good enough to win their division, win the pennant in epic fashion, and go on to achieve victory in one of the greatest World Series of all time. This is the story of the 1986 New York Mets, perhaps the wildest team of all time, and how they managed to harness that maniacal energy and pour it into a World Series winning campaign. There will be plenty of names you recognize: Ron Darling, Mookie Wilson, Dwight Gooden, Keith Hernandez, Lenny Dykstra, and oh yeah, Darryl Strawberry, just to name a few. The debauchery of this group of guys is well documented. They took amphetamines before games, shotgun cans of beer during games, and got themselves arrested one wild night in Houston. Even all those distractions couldn't stop this team from winning a ring and cementing their legacy as some of the most unconventional world champions in any of the major sports. Let's chart this team's crazy season and take a look at all the most ridiculous stories that players and journalists have recorded for public consumption and see how they survived two of the most intense postseason series ever played and became the most unhinged group of rascals ever to hoist the Commissioner's Trophy. Strap in. There have been countless stories about the '86 Mets. The season started in interesting fashion, with a group of guys on the team writing, recording, and releasing a rap single, Metsmerized, only one game into the season. Just one game into a 162-game campaign, and this team was already feeling itself. They guaranteed their fans a World Series victory. Boastful predictions like this don't normally work out. Just last year, Dave Roberts said the only thing that could prevent his Los Angeles Dodgers from winning the 2022 World Series championship was COVID, before being eliminated in short order in the divisional round. The point is, calling your shot fails more often than it succeeds. But these Mets were different. The fans in Queens, the rest of the league, and the baseball world really did get Metsmerized in 1986. You should check out the song, by the way. It's Metsmerizing, all right. But not every tale of the '86 Mets worked out as smoothly as the World Series guarantee they made after starting the season 1-0. In the summer of that season, 4 Mets players spent a night in a Houston City jail. The story goes that second baseman Tim Teufel took 3 other Mets to Cooter's Executive Games and Bar to celebrate the birth of his first child. He took pitchers Ron Darling, Rick Aguilera, and Bob Ojeda. Teufel tried to leave the bar with a drink in his hand and was stopped by a police officer working security at the bar. This led to an altercation in which Ron Darling threw a sucker punch at the officer and got himself thrown through a plate glass window. He and Teufel were charged with aggravated assault on a police officer, and the 2 other pitchers were charged with hindering an arrest. They spent 11 hours in jail but were released in time for the following night's game at the Astrodome. While they were gone, their teammates decorated their lockers to look like jail cells. 3 days later, the team's in Cincinnati, and a fight breaks out at third base between Mets' Ray Knight and Reds' Eric Davis. 3 Mets players wind up getting ejected: Ray Knight, Darryl Strawberry, and Kevin Mitchell. The Mets play the rest of the game with a catcher at third base and a pitcher in the outfield. And they won. That's what made this Mets team amazing. All the distractions, all the noise, the drugs, the drinking, the fights, the arrest, and they just kept winning. This was a team whose slogan was, according to the players themselves, drink their beer, screw their women, and kick their asses. A team who Lenny Dykstra claims at least 90% of the roster were taking speed that season. This partly explains how they were capable of the debauchery and destruction on the plane ride home from their NLCS victory. In Houston again, funnily enough, where 2 of their players earned a year-long probation during the regular season after the bar fight with a cop mentioned earlier, the Mets capped off an incredibly intense series against the Astros with a 15-inning nail-biter to take the pennant in 6 games. They drank some champagne and flew home to prepare for the World Series. End of story, right? Nope. The Mets went on to completely destroy the plane on the flight home, snorting huge amounts of cocaine, according to Darryl Strawberry, and drinking to the point of self-endangerment. Players' wives evidently got vomited on, plane seats were broken, and players started a food fight. The Mets were billed $7,500 for damages by United Airlines, and they never flew United again. Again, at some point, you think all this partying, all these distractions, all this extracurricular nonsense would add up and affect the Mets' on-field play. How long can a team play hard and party harder, taking speed and drinking beer during games, and keep winning baseball at the highest level? Well, at least for the duration of the 1986 regular season and postseason, it seems. Though maybe all that partying accounts for their falling behind in the World Series, scoring only 3 runs in the first 2 games of the series against the Boston Red Sox. They were the home team too. Not many teams dropped their first 2 home games of a 7-game series and salvage a victory. The Mets tied it up though, winning the next 2 games at Fenway only to fall behind again in Game 5. Then came Game 6. You probably know about Game 6 of the 1986 World Series. If you don't, you've probably seen footage from that game without being aware of it. Game 6 of this series is widely considered one of the greatest games in the history of the sport and features one of its most iconic and tragic moments. A back-and-forth 10-inning game for the ages. The Mets survived elimination thanks to probably the most consequential error of all time, as Boston Red Sox first baseman Bill Buckner allowed the winning run to score after letting a Mookie Wilson ground ball roll right between his legs. The Mets went on to Game 7, which they put away in the 8th inning thanks to a leadoff Darryl Strawberry home run and an unexpected RBI single by pitcher Jesse Orosco after swinging on a fake bunt. Pitchers hitting might have been momentum killers a lot of the time, but let's remember they gave us some great moments. Orosco closed it out and the Mets won 8-5, giving the craziest team in baseball a World Series championship. One can only imagine the partying and debauchery that went on in the wake of this World Series victory. They did it. They Metsmerized the world. They drank beer, screwed women, and kicked ass. The plan worked. Play hard, party harder. For the duration of 1986 at least. Aside from reaching the NLCS again in 1988, this Mets team achieved nothing and didn't reach the playoffs until 1999. In '86, they were Metsmerizing. Many of their best players were young, as in 24 years old or younger young. Dwight Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, Lenny Dykstra, Kevin Mitchell were all 24 or younger. With a core like that, the Mets should have been a contender for years. But maybe all that partying and drug use finally did catch up to them. The 1986 Mets were a fun team, absolutely electric both on and off the diamond. They called their shot and sunk it, winning the Mets' first World Series since the amazing Mets of '69, and gave Major League Baseball some of its greatest memories. But then they failed to repeat that success, and some of those wild tales of debauchery look a little different in retrospect. Dwight Gooden admitted he missed the Mets' World Series victory parade because he was high at his drug dealer's apartment. Strawberry, a young man in 1986, struggled with alcoholism and cocaine addiction for most of his adult life, thankfully getting sober in 2011. Maybe baseball fans shouldn't celebrate a team taking speed and shotgunning beers to stay pumped for the game. Regardless, the 1986 Mets will always be remembered as a legendary baseball team, both for their baseball exploits and their legendary partying, though maybe they're remembered in a slightly different light by the fine people at United Airlines.